Another day, another crazy policy proposed by Bernie Sanders. This time it's he's going to add long-term care to his Medicare for All plan, just continually piling up the costs. Uh, Not that unexpected. So here we go. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont unveiled a revamped version of his Medicare for All plan on Wednesday, shaking up the 2020 presidential race by renewing his call for replacing job-based and private health insurance with a government plan that guarantees coverage for all. He says, it's not a radical idea to say that in the United States, every American who goes to a doctor should be able to afford the prescription drug he or she needs. That's not a radical idea, but, we're going to do it. So here's a little video we can play that's going to basically go through his policy.
Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege.
Yes.
And together we are going to end the international embarrassment of the United States of America, our great country, being the only major nation on earth not to guarantee health care to all as a right. That is going to end. It is not a radical idea to say that in the United States, every American who goes to a doctor should be able to afford the prescription drugs he or she needs. We should not tolerate a system which allows the top 10 drug companies to make $69 billion in profits last year, while at the same time, and this is really unbelievable, 1 out of 5 Americans who get a prescription from their doctor cannot even afford to fill that prescription. How crazy is that?
This is something that is so vital to humanity. Healthcare must be a right, not a privilege, because it is what we believe. It's what our country needs. This has to become the next social safety net. It has to become something that is there for you no matter what. No matter if you can afford it, no matter where you live, no matter what.
So, as you can see, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is kind of jumping in with him on this plan. I'm going to call it right now that he's going to be running president. She's going to be his VP because she is doing nowhere in the polls. She is at, I think, like 1% or something like that. So she's basically just trying to tag along to him, and he's pulling a lot higher at something like 21%, if I remember correctly. So here we go. 4 of Sanders' fellow senators and rivals for the Democratic nomination have signed on to the updated single-payer health care proposal. The bill's reintroduction promises to shine a light on Democrats' disparate visions, blah, 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 blah. But, here we go. A co-sponsor of the previous version has dropped off. New Hampshire Democrat Senator Jean, I don't know how to say that, Shaheen said in a statement, there are faster ways to reach universal coverage by building on the progress we've made through the Affordable Care Act. So, what basically is Bernie Sanders trying to do right now? So you have a few different options. You have you have fully private, which is, as it says, fully private. So there's no government assistance. There's no government, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no government assistance, but there are still profit margin incentives in the market, and there's a free market of private healthcare insurance and healthcare, somewhat like we have today, more like what there before the ACA was passed, obviously. And then you have a kind of semi-private, semi-public, which is where if you have, let's say you're poor and you cannot afford healthcare, the government will provide you with healthcare, and that option is available to everyone. And you still have the free market and the profit incentives of the free market. What Bernie Sanders is trying to do is different. It's the third option, which is eliminate the profit incentive for pharmaceutical companies and for healthcare companies. And if you look, where was it? It was... Here we go. Sanders' office released a paper outlining options to pay for his latest version of Medicare for All, estimated to cost upward of $1 trillion per year, although none of these options were included in the legislation. He and other supporters of Medicare for All have generally sidestepped the question of how they pay for their plan. Again, not that surprising. Instead, they say it offers the best chance for the nation to get control over healthcare costs by eliminating profiteering. What does that mean? You have profit is very demonized right now in American politics, and it doesn't really make much sense to me, honestly, because everyone has to profit. Otherwise, why would you do anything unless you're trying to do something that gets you a larger return than it impacts you negatively? You want more positive than negative. That is basically you're profiting off of the situation. So the whole idea that you're going to be, by eliminating profit, you're going to get rid of healthcare costs, that doesn't make any sense, because the only reason healthcare costs are at all reasonable, and I know they're high, but that is for a lot of other options. It's not just the free market. We don't live in a free market system right now with healthcare. There's a lot of government regulation. The ACA is passed. You've got a whole mess of various laws, and obviously there's going to be some corrupt practices in that. But again, it's kind of, you can't really tell where the private ends and where the public begins, because of how broken our system is. But by eliminating profit, you're going to be saying to pharmaceutical companies, you don't get to make money. That doesn't that doesn't make sense. Because here we go. So he quoted here. Let me see if I can find it again.
Their doctor cannot even afford.
Something that is so
This is really unbelievable. Dollars in profits.
Here we go.
To make $69 billion in profits last year.
Okay, so apparently $69 billion in profits for the top 10 pharmaceutical companies is a bad thing. Okay, why would that be a bad thing? I don't get it. So I pulled up this list. This is total revenue. So this is not profit. This is before expenditures. This is just the total amount of gross revenue. Let's take Johnson & Johnson. Okay, they made $81 billion. And okay, let's go research and development. So in 2016, the top, I think this is going to be, I think it's top 20. Yes, I think it is top 20. So the top 20, or here we go, identifies the other, oh no, so yeah, it is top 20. So the top 20 healthcare companies or pharmaceutical firms spent $156.7 billion globally in research and development. So let's say that, let's cut that in half, or I mean, it's probably somewhere like a Pareto distribution. So these top companies, the top 10 companies, are spending a disproportionate amount, are spending hundreds of billions of dollars, probably around $100 billion globally on research and development, which is new drugs, better treatment, better, drugs with less side effects or hopefully less side effects, more effective treatments. This is what profit does. This is what profit incentivizes. So here we go. Here's another study that I found by Peterson Kaiser. How does health spending in the U.S. compare to other countries? So this might surprise you. Here we go. Here are, Luxembourg's over here with GDP per capita, health spending per capita. The United States is insanely high on this. Higher than, look, they stand out above all of these other so-called, better countries that have nationalized healthcare. We spend per head $10,000 per person in the United States. Let's look at, Norway, the touted as the best. Okay, 6,000. Netherlands, around 6,000, 5,000. Iceland, around 4,000, 5,000. All of these countries spend way, way less on healthcare per citizen. What does that mean? Does it mean that the care is better? No. It means that the care is going to be worse. And it means that American companies spend so much more on research and development that it's like, tell me a drug that has been developed outside of the U.S., and I will give you 5 that were developed in the U.S. So again, it doesn't make sense that profit is necessarily a bad thing. Him saying Medicare for all is going to be eliminating the private sector. And the private sector allows for innovation. It allows for research and development. Do you really trust the government is going to be able to, fund all of these different things? So if you want to get rid of private insurance, that's kicking everyone off of plans that they enjoy. That's kicking people off of, plans they have through their job. Or if they don't have it through their job, then they buy it themselves. It doesn't make any sense. And it shows that Democrats lied when they were originally pushing the ACA. You have Barack Obama getting up and saying, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Bernie Sanders is saying, no, if you like your plan, if you have nothing wrong with your plan, if you work hard for your plan, if you worked hard to get a job that provides a good plan, you don't get to keep that because we're going to tell you, no, you have to get rid of that. That's an evil mechanism. You're participating in an evil mechanism. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So here we go. I found, digging through a report, 2016 annual report for Johnson & Johnson. 2017, I couldn't find the data for that. It's probably just not finished being, compiled or whatever, or not available to the public. I don't really know. But anyway, let's look at 2016. So total sales, about 71 billion, let's do $72 billion in sales. That isn't evil. That means $72 billion worth of medication, drugs, artificial legs, or artificial hips, artificial knees, treatment, healthcare was provided to people all over the world. The majority of that being in the United States. So, it makes no sense. So here we go. Net earnings, $16.5 billion. Net earnings attributable to Johnson. So the same. So you're telling me that you want to eliminate this money, this entire system. You want to say, no, you don't get to sell to make a profit. You don't get to incentivize more research and development. You don't get to incentivize this graph, basically. You don't get to incentivize it. You have Chinese pharmaceuticals are starting to catch up, but by far the United States is the top. Here we go. While the top 20 firms were all based in Western countries, that primarily means the United States, domestic pharmaceutical firms operating in China or India are significantly increasing the size and share of their investments. It's still years away. What Bernie Sanders' plan is going to do is it's going to say, okay, all of that money that was raised by pharmaceutical companies selling drugs to insurance companies and to people, we're going to eliminate all that, which means no more research and development. It makes, he's thinking that these companies are just raking in the cash and making 100% profit off of stuff. Here we go. They have a profit of 18.75%. I'm okay with that. That's a high profit, I'm sure, but still, look at their expenditures. Their expenditures are massive. You can't possibly try to convince me that Johnson & Johnson is, ripping everyone off in the world. It doesn't make any sense. And so when you say you're going to eliminate private health insurance and that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, you're basically saying, okay, let's eliminate the free market. And I mean, this isn't surprising to me because Bernie Sanders is a socialist. A democratic socialist is not anything different than a socialist. It's just a fancier way to dress it up to people who are afraid of actual socialism. And it's ridiculously, ridiculously expensive. Several independent studies of Medicare for All have estimated that it would dramatically increase government spending on healthcare in the range of about $25 trillion to $35 trillion or more over a 10-year period. That is insane. Absolutely insane. You want to add up to 35 trillion or, let's take the low end, 25 trillion. You want to add that much to our budget. How are you going to do that? Even though we already spend double all of these other countries which supposedly do it right. Are you telling me that if we gave Medicare for all and we cut all private insurance, this rate, this amount would go down? Are you serious? No, because you know why this rate is high? This rate is high because we have more research and development in this country than any other one. We've developed more treatments, more drugs. This is why this is high. We have the best healthcare. You go to Canada, they have death courts, I think is what the term is called, where they determine if you're eligible to receive a liver transplant or a kidney transplant. If they deem you not eligible, you don't get one. It doesn't matter what. I mean, I think they've changed the practice now, but when they originally had fully socialized healthcare, it was up to a bunch of lawyers or a hospital ethics board. I don't really know the exact procedure, but you didn't have a choice. No matter how much money you had, you couldn't get private insurance. That is unconstitutional for the U.S. Canada doesn't have that in their constitution. That's fine, even though a court ruling actually ruled that it was against. I think it was against the Canadian Constitution actually to not allow private hospitals. So those are open now. But I mean, look at all of these countries. Germany spends $5,000. Sweden spends $5,000. Austria spends $5,000. The UK with the NHS, which is supremely broken. I'm sure if you went to people in the UK and said, hey, would you like the option of bypassing NHS and just using your dollars to go to whatever health insurance you want, I'm sure they would say yes. So this whole idea that we are going to get rid of private insurance, get rid of the profit margin, and that we're going to trust people like Kirsten Gillibrand, who used to get an A on the NRA. She used to get an A. Now she's in an F. So it's not really like you don't just change your policy like that in a few years. So she is one of the largest flip-floppers there is. Bernie Sanders is consistently just a socialist loon bag. And I'm so sick and tired of people trying to push this whole Medicare for all plan. Like it's not going to work. It's going to bankrupt us. And it's socialism in disguise. It's not about healthcare as a human right, not a privilege. This is going to be extended to everything. What is healthcare? Healthcare is people providing services to you. So you're saying that a human right, what if, let's say, you are in a country with 20 people, none of them are doctors, and they declare healthcare is a human right. Are you going to force someone in there to go to medical school to become a doctor? Or in your situation, that is what would happen. In the free market, someone would say, oh, looks like people are getting sick. Maybe I should go to medical school, maybe I can make money off of that, or maybe I can help people. It doesn't really matter what your motivation is. The free market will allow any motivation that makes money to thrive. So, I mean, look, he hasn't provided a single detailed plan on how to pay for this. He just says it. And people are going to gobble it up because they don't understand the economics of it, and they just want free stuff. That's all it is. And Kristen Gillibrand isn't going to go through line by line on the budget. Bernie Sanders isn't going to go through line by line on the budget. These people don't have the sense to do that, and they know that if they had to, it would be embarrassing. It would cost $25 to $35 trillion, and I don't even if it's lower than that, even if it's 20 trillion, that's still insane. I don't think the government should be getting involved in so many things. The ACA has been proven to raise insurance costs. That's a fact. All across the board, insurance rates went up like 150%, I think, for premiums. Like, bringing the government in never solves any problem. I mean, pretty much ever. You look at Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty, the poverty rate was decreasing over time. War on Poverty starts, flatlined, slight increase. It doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. The war on drugs, obviously, is another example. It doesn't work. War on terror doesn't work. Government bureaucracy getting involved in anything that the free market governed beforehand always ruins it. And this is right. A spokeswoman for Trump's re-election campaign said Medicare for all is a euphemism for government takeover of healthcare, and it would increase wait times, eliminate choice, and raise taxes. That's a fact. Let's take out the wait times. Maybe not. That's not provable. Or maybe not. It would have to raise taxes because it would cost more, and if the budget is bigger, you have to raise taxes or go further into debt. And we already have a $600-something billion deficit right now, and sure, I'm mad at Trump for expanding it. He really has been doing a horrible job of balancing it. You want to put a socialist in charge of the budget to increase and raise the budget? Our deficit's going to be at least $1 trillion, if not more, with this type of a plan. So then taxes are going to have to be raised. Okay. And it would eliminate choice because Bernie Sanders is literally saying we are going to eliminate the profit seeking motive from the market. You profit when you buy health insurance, and the health insurance company profits when you buy health insurance. Just in different ways. I profit when I buy health insurance by getting health insurance. I value the health insurance more than I value my money. The health insurance company values my money more than they value their service. So then we make a trade. Okay, who got hurt? When the government steps in and says, no, this is what it should be, how do you know? We have a country with 350 million people in it, all with different circumstances, all with different ideas of what ideal care is, all with different needs, health needs, and you're going to be saying, no, we have it, we're going to do it this way for everyone. What if you're wealthy enough and you don't want a crappy government plan? Is Bernie Sanders going to say, no, you're not allowed to get better health care? I mean, that's exactly what this is. And he knows it, and he's trying to code it in this nice language of healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. No, it's not a right. You can't have a proscriptive right. You don't get to take things from other people. That's not a right. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much else to say on this. It's just, it baffles me that people don't see this, and they don't see what is going on here. Because first it's health insurance, and it's going to be, healthcare itself. And this is saying it's going to be healthcare. And I mean, who knows what else it's going to be? Maybe it's going to be food. Maybe they're going to say food is a human right. Okay, then you're going to have to, you know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it just blows the budget out. We're going to have to raise taxes on people. And this is going to carve out a significant portion of the country economically, like it did when the ACA happened and health insurance went up for everyone. All right. Well, if you guys want me to, if you have any further video suggestions or any ideas, please leave them in the comments. Feel free to email me at epicurusz.mail@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at epicurusz. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.